From the former convent of the Good Shepherd overlooking Inwood Hill Park in New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where I meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home in what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and this is Live and Local. It's where we interview local musicians and, best of all, get to hear them play live. Today, we welcome Sanakori Ramos. Sanakori is a cultural keeper and spiritual leader of the indigenous Caribbean tribal nation Arayeke Yukayek. He has served on various indigenous Caribbean communities and nonprofits for the past 25 years. He founded the NYC Indigenous Day of Remembrance event, NYC Indigenous Mobile Library and Traveling Cultural Center, and TainoRadio.com. Sanakori is a Taino dancer and powwow fancy dancer with years of cultural musical performances. He is also a New York State licensed social worker. We're going to talk to him about his work in the community and so much more, but first, let's listen to a performance by Sanakori Ramos.
Atavera go go bibi go wara bibi. Atavera go go bibi go wara baba. Atavera go bibi go wara bibi. Atavera wa sui mako. Atavera wa sui mako. Atavera gua bibi gua wara baba. Atavera gua bibi gua wara bibi. Atavera gua sui mako. Atavera gua sui mako. Atavera gua sui mako. Atavera gua bibi gua wara baba. Atavera gua bibi gua wara baba. Atavera gua sui mako. Atavera gua sui mako. Atavera gua sui mako. Atavera gua atavera
That was just fantastic. Sanakori, it's great to see you. How are you?
Hey man, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to see you again. It's been a while.
It's been a long time, but I'm so glad we got to make this time to be together.
Definitely.
So tell me, what did we just hear?
Wow. Well, my old teacher, Edwin Cedeno, great percussionist in the Latino community, took his skills and brought it to the Taino community. And that's one of the songs he wrote dedicated to the Earth Mother. He's no longer with us, but I try to keep his music alive wherever I go. And that song in particular is at least 20 years old almost now. And I always, in ceremonies, I always play it. It honors the Earth Mother, the Earth, the planet as our mother. And we are her children, and we have to keep her happy and everyone else happy. So it's a festive song.
Very much so. You are Borican, correct?
Yeah, Borinquen.
Borican.
I mean, I'm sorry, Boricua.
Boricua. But is the spelling Borikeen? I can't remember.
Yeah, B-O-R,
Yeah.
or B-O-R-I-C-U-A.
I see you.
B-O-R-I, that's Boricua, right?
Gotcha. Which is what we call Puerto Rico now, right?
Oh, actually, Borinquen, you were correct in the first place. That's the name of the island.
Right.
The land of the brave people.
Yes.
Or sometimes translated as the brave Lord.
Right.
Yeah. Now, Boricua is an indigenous person.
Of the person himself.
Right, of that island. Yeah, there you go.
I had it right. You had me sweating for a second.
I got confused.
See, I'm glad you came here to learn something from me, Louis. I was kidding. Sanakori, I mean. Yeah. When you know him like me, I call him Louis sometimes.
That's right.
I know him for a long time.
A.K.A. Louis.
A.K.A. Louis to me. So is that where your tribal nation of Taino culture originates from? Could you give us a little brief history lesson?
Sure.
The intro would be great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Borinquen, a.k.a. Puerto Rico, is a small little island right on the Caribbean Sea. It's closer, pointing up to North America. And for a good, I would say 7,000 years, it's had some inhabitants, indigenous people that came as far as Alaska. It took them 20,000 years, but they made it. From the snow to the Caribbean sun. Amazing, right?
It is.
Yeah, the archaeology, the culture backs it up. At least 7,000 years. So I inherited, my family inherits all of that traditions, from the food, the language, traditions, customs. It's still alive and well. Definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I've known you for a long time, Sanakori, and through many forms, be it live performance or storytelling, dance, regardless of the form, they've always had common ground in connecting people to indigenous Caribbean roots. And I can't believe to tell you how much I admire you for keeping the culture present in our community. Can you speak to the decision of taking on this role and being a cultural keeper? That's quite, to choose to do this. It's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you. Well, you know what happened many years ago, I would say before the COVID time, there was a professor in New York City College, and many of his writings, he said we don't exist. And he's not the only one. A lot of people in the academy, all these universities, colleges, many of them say I don't exist. My family doesn't exist. Tainos don't exist. So I tried to take it to the next level, and I said to myself, you know what? I can't change their minds, but I can help others who are struggling, who read these articles, and say, "Nah, man, you exist, and let's work it out."
Yeah, you're a living record.
There you go.
Was your family deep into history and culture? Is that where you get it from? I mean, obviously you have mentors too, but just curious, like if your mom and dad and your immediate family, did they kind of like bring you up with a strong affinity for your cultural roots?
Well, it's interesting. As far as I know, in my oral tradition, in my family, my great grandmother, when I was born, she said, "No, he's coming with me," and that wasn't rare back in the day in the Caribbean. So what I learned from her was she was a cultural keeper. She was what they call a spiritualist. So she did a lot of healings. She did a lot of cleansing of the homes. What we call a shaman. She was doing this in New York City. She had tons of experience back home in Borinquen, so she brought that here. And so as a kid, I was always wide-eyed looking at her doing stuff, because she did it hidden. It wasn't really allowed back in the 60s and 70s here in New York City. It wasn't like considered like something you do here. This is America. So she did a lot of things hidden, and she let me see her.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Like I said, the pandemic has derailed a lot of plans for a lot of people.
Right.
Kosher or not kosher, as we say, accepted or not accepted amongst popular culture of things. But I wanted to check in with you to see if you're still running the Indigenous Mobile Library, because that was, I thought, an awesome project that you had. And you can tell our listeners about it.
Yeah, for the past, since COVID struck, I really didn't take out the books, because the meat and potatoes of the library and traveling cultural centers be out there in the streets. So when everything shut down, it was kind of unfortunate for all of us. Sure. And the library, I couldn't go out there. So I'm going on 2 years now. I haven't been out there.
Okay, it's been 2 years.
Yeah, it's been 2 years. But I've been taking inventory. I have over close to 600 books now. I have a lot of, been collecting a lot of, like, not artifacts, but items that are native And eventually, when I come out again, I'm gonna display everything that I have.
Yeah, you're getting right to the point, and so it's less of like one of those little like isn't that nice to have a little pick a book take a book kind of thing. No, not like that at all.
Right.
Like it's a cultural experience. Like you're there, you're curating this collection,
Right.
and you have a lot of other cultural items that pairs along with what you're presenting to people.
Exactly, yeah, and invokes memories from them.
Yeah.
And or it confirms who they are in the present. So a lot of Caribbean people, they'll say, "Oh yeah, my great grandmother was Indian," and then I look at them, well, hey, do you identify? And they look at you like wide eye, like they're afraid to do that.
Yeah.
So then, with the books, with the items, it brings memories, and it helps them identify.
It's interesting to be said about going through the experience. It's not like going on Ancestry.com and like putting in your DNA or something like that. Like you're an active participant in the process, which I think is fantastic.
That's it. Yeah, it's like show and tell, right? Hey, feel it, touch it, talk.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me hear your story.
Exactly. No, that's why I think it's really great. Well, I hope you can bring it back.
Oh man,
do you have any plans to bring it back?
Yeah, I think the next level right now is getting like one of those old, what do you call those, mini buses and stuff.
Okay.
And just travel around.
Yeah.
The neighborhoods.
That'd be great.
Especially the neighborhoods where there were actually Lenape villages there. I want to highlight that too, It's all over the city.
Absolutely. Well, we all know we're on borrowed ground here.
That's it.
So our little token land acknowledgement there, but it's all true. It's all very true. Part of getting the word out there when you couldn't do the library,
right.
You started TainoRadio.com too,
yes,
right?
Took it to the airwaves.
So you took it to the airwaves. Do you start that during COVID? Is that what you did? Is that when you started it?
Actually, I in 2019, I was going through a rough spell spiritually, emotionally. So when I went to Puerto Rico for like 4 months, that's where I started it.
Oh.
Just taking people off the street. Hey, can I talk to you? Yeah. And I'll interview them and stuff. It was cool. It was fun.
That's awesome. And so tell us, what kind of program can we find there right now?
Okay, basically, there's different topics. For example, Taino history. And what I've been focusing more now, not just the history anymore, but, hey, people say we don't exist. Well, you tell them. So I take activists, family members, and now also children. Tell them that you exist. Go ahead. And then they share their story.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to document stories of people. So say 100 years from now.
Like oral history, capturing oral history?
That's it.
Nice.
So 100 years from now, they could download the show and say, oh, man, Tainos did exist.
That's awesome.
So that's what I'm working on now, to archive these shows.
And beat the cancel culture.
That's it. That's it.
Got it. Well, whether it's hosting a radio program, dancing, or leading a group activity as part of the Shrapapak Earthkeepers here in Inwood Park, which you were very much a part of, your knowledge and efforts to promote and educate indigenous culture, it's so inspiring.
Thank you.
So I want to highlight one piece of your activism that a lot of people don't know about, but I do. And it's not the library, but you're a walking, living, breathing example of this culture. You are part of the history, and you did, correct me if I'm wrong, have a career as a semi-professional pro wrestler.
Oh, that was a fun time. Yeah.
And what was the moniker?
Well, it was definitely Taino Sagrado.
There it was.
Yep. From the mountains of Nahuaque, which was in Puerto Rico. It's an indigenous community I used to work with. And the kids inspired me to do something like that.
That's so awesome.
Wrestling for the culture.
Yeah. And so you got to reach a totally, we'll just say segmented audience, we'll say. It's like people who watch pro wrestling.
Right.
Is, not the same people who perhaps go to an outdoor indigenous library.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a little bit of, I'm just saying here, I come from a blue collar community. I'm growing up here. You didn't really have both people doing both things. Maybe 1% of them did it. So my point is that it's really awesome that you were able to take some of your interests and also put that into activism and also had a lot of fun.
Oh man, it was good stuff. And it's funny, a local promoter, that's how it all started. He wanted me to do his name is Frankie Flo Boricua, wanted me to do a blessing in the ring, so people can connect, which mostly was Puerto Rican Dominican community. And at first people were snickering, like, what is he doing? Like, it was like that nervous. And then once I started playing the music and this, like what the people were just like, you know how wrestling kind of lifts that disbelief?
Sure.
And now I was lifting their disbelief. Like, wait a minute, this is real. This guy's legit. Like, wait a minute.
And it's great that they're learning something without knowing they're learning something.
Yeah, that's it. So that's when wrestling hit shamanism kind of thing.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so awesome. I just love how
Thanks.
that whole way of reaching people was fantastic.
Thank you.
Well, you're an exemplary spiritual leader, and it's really amazing how it is such a vital part of you, and might add So where are you currently putting your efforts now?
Wow. Okay. Right now, I'm part of a community that I help found, inspired by the ancestors in Borinquen. We're close to 100 individuals and families. It's Arayeke Yukayek. It's an indigenous community, and we're a sovereign nation. That's our foundation, and we're hoping to buy land in Borinquen, eventually the other islands, so we can be self-sustaining. And we're doing it for the children. We're doing it for the future.
Sure.
So that's where I'm focusing a lot now, and trying to educate those future leaders. So we have our. We reestablished those old tribal council members, and I've been helping with that, trying to teach them so they can take it to the next level.
And where are they in Puerto Rico now? What part of Puerto Rico?
Well, we got some members in Puerto Rico, but right now we're in the diaspora.
Okay.
Most of our members, as far as California,
Gotcha.
New Mexico, Florida, New York, we're all over.
Gotcha.
And we got some members in.
So decentralized effort to make it centralized somewhere in the islands down there.
Because one day when we get our money together,
Yeah.
we're going to purchase some land.
That's awesome. And is
That's
there a
our
that's the nonprofit right now?
No, actually, we're doing what tribes do here. We're a self-sovereign nation.
Gotcha.
So that's the mentality.
Right.
Instead of having a nonprofit
Okay.
as the base, eventually we might have a nonprofit, but
Sure.
that'll be separate
Great.
to
It's an
sustain
arm
the
of it.
tribe.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
That's so amazing. That's so
Thank you.
amazing. Well, now you have a place to be a mentor to the next wave of performers. Did you have a mentor or someone you looked for guidance other than your great grandmother?
Well, I tell you, when I met Edwin Cedeno, the late Edwin Cedeno, he really admired me. I admired him. It was a good friendship.
Yeah.
He was a really intense individual, and he's the one that taught me the love of the drum.
Yeah.
The
And so
Mayo
was he a musician?
Yeah,
or
he was.
He was.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was world renowned. He was definitely he knew his stuff, and he knew his trade. So he was teaching me a lot of those beats, but definitely the passion of the music, how you can communicate that to others.
Yeah.
It's a language. So he helped me learn the music language. I always had music in my life, but he helped me take it seriously when it came to our instruments, Taino instruments. And I'm still trying to keep his work alive through singing.
And can you name some of these specific Taino instruments?
Okay, the gore, it's universal. That a dry fruit that we can't eat, right? But it's a dead fruit that comes to life with rhythm. So that's one of our main instruments to keep rhythm, keep timing in the songs. And that's the rattle, the maraca. That's a Taino instrument. And then the log drum, which a lot of people in different parts of the world use, where you take out the wood inside and you make a hollow, and then there's different beats. We inherited that most likely from the Aztec, Mexica nations from Mexico when they migrated down to the Caribbean. So we still have that tradition, the log drum, Mayo Wakan. We use it during the war times too as a communication system between tribes up in the mountains. Also during ceremonies, important ceremonies, especially the arreto, which is similar to what they call powwow. One of our most sacred ceremonies was dance, music. Everyone coming together and dance. So that's the arreto. So that's what these instruments do. We also had the flute, similar to the northern flute. So we had wind instrument. We had the percussion with the wood. And everything's like, again, it was handmade. It was natural wood, gore, seeds. Wow. Those are the major instruments and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, we'll try to get you back with a big band again.
Oh, yeah.
I have to recall the last time. It's too bad. It's really been 7 years ago since you performed for us for our first ever outdoor filmworks al fresco performance. We did the Cherokee word for water. and you performed
that's right.
along with the Eagle and Condor
That's right.
group,
Yep.
right?
Yep. That's true. Oh yeah, that was right out there in Inwood. Yeah, that
In the
was
park
fun.
there, right? But which was great because it was actually in the park, which is where Peter Minuet bought Manhattan from the Indians for trinkets and beads.
According to legend, right?
According to legend, that's all we have. I mean, I wasn't there, folks, so I don't know. We weren't here, but we know that you know. By point of stories that this was Lenape territory.
Yeah, this is all Lenape. They were the caregivers of this land, the keepers of the East. They were the keepers of the Eastern Door. That's how they say it. So we gotta honor that.
We do, and we did in that performance, and
that was powerful.
And you are doing it every day by carrying on the good work, my friend.
Definitely, man. And great timing because I'm bringing back Band of Tainos. I'm bringing it back.
Are you?
It went into sleep. That was one of our last. No, it wasn't our last performance, but I'm trying to bring it back. I'm trying to bring it back.
Well, let's keep talking. Let's bring it back. We can maybe get you out in front of the crowd again.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Fantastic.
I've been recruiting Taino musicians to bring it, do something really powerful.
Well, so Louis, you keep the just Caribbean culture alive and well. Where can we send people to learn more about your work and Taino culture?
Well, I tell you, Taino Radio 1491 at gmail.com.
Okay.
So that's Taino Radio 1491 at gmail.com.
So it's a direct pipeline to Louis / Sanakori, excuse me.
Yep.
I know him so well. I can't, I default. I'm sorry, folks. I'm trying to, but
Louis is good.
He's the professional name is Sanakori, okay? So that's how we're calling him, all right?
Yeah, Louis keeps coming
You
up,
know
right?
him like me, you call him Louis. But
Hey, Luigi. I'm also Luigi.
Or Luigi, you can see.
From Brooklyn, man.
From Brooklyn, yeah.
I was born in Brooklyn.
The Brooklyn part of Puerto Rico.
That's right. We went. That was one of my migrations there.
That's right. Well, that's right. I mean, listen, you could say they made it to Alaska. They definitely made it to Brooklyn, man.
It didn't stop in Borinquen. It went to Brooklyn, New York, baby.
It did.
Forget about it.
Is that where you were born?
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn. New York.
Full circle, baby. Awesome.
That's it.
Well, Sanakori, thank you again for
man.
taking the time to be here and share your music and your culture and your time with us.
Thank you. Bo Guatucan. Blessings to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Right. So thanks again to Sanakori Ramos for joining me on this artist spot. Well, actually, thanks again to Sanakori Ramos for joining me on this live and local episode of Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where I meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home here in Upper Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show us some love right now by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. That really does help. Many thanks to Church of Good Shepherd here in Inwood for hosting us, and to HideSites.com for Uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming by making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate, and also on Venmo. Be sure to follow us on social media at Inwood Artworks to keep up all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmmakers Al Fresco, pop-up art galleries, live performances, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.